Happy New Year and welcome back to the JONATHAN BENAIAH Podcast. Now, for context, if you've not listened to the previous sections of this exciting episode, be sure to pause this particular one and go back and listen to those 5 other sections. In this final section, we will skim through a few more stories that made big news in 2022 in the conservation and travel space as we draw near to the end of what has been an exciting and power-packed episode. All right, guys, welcome back to the JONATHAN BENAIAH Podcast, and let's pick up right where we left. I know Bentik in his previous submission did talk about mass tourism, and I'd like to bring in Letile on the discussion between mass tourism versus low impact tourism. It's only 2 years since the pandemic, that pandemic year of 2020.
How many pandemics have you seen?
There's
cholera, Ebola. That's not a pandemic.
That's an endemic. That's a difference.
There's a very big difference.
Yeah, so 2020 was, we can all agree, was not a good year for humankind, but it seemed to be a good year for the wildlife, because we had so many babies. As guys who did trips shortly after the lockdown, we saw so many new mountain gorilla babies, so many cubs, so many antelopes. So you can say it was a love-hate situation during the pandemic, especially for people in the conservation world. But this particular year, we are seeing tourists coming back to the destinations. But we're also seeing a return of, if I could call it that, safari traffic jam, especially in destinations like Masai Mara and Serengeti. I did see several videos that were making rounds throughout the year around so many vehicles around a single
one
sighting
lion
in places like Masai Mara. And I'd like to hear from Letile as someone who operates trips in Botswana. I guess Botswana does a lot of that low impact tourism that is mindful of the carrying capacity of your destinations. I'd like to know how have you been able to regulate the numbers, and also what lessons can you share with other African destinations in possibly what Botswana is doing right that other destinations can learn from?
In Botswana, we have concessions where, if I book into a certain lodge, me as likely, from now, I can't go and do a game drive in that area, unless if I booked in a lodge in that area. So they won't allow me to enter. Trying to reduce those, in Masai Mara, you find more 20 vehicles watching one pride of lion in the national park. That thing in Botswana mostly only happens in Kasane, in Chobe National Park, because there will be all the hotels and lodges and guest houses taking that lines for a game drive. Then you see more than 20 vehicles in the same sighting, which is not good. Which is not good for the environment and also for the animals. Because in Moremi, yes, we sometimes we get a number. We can have 10 to 15 vehicles, but we always try to spread, not to go into into the same location with more than 20 vehicles, because we always let each other. So if someone comes who came first, they have to move so that others can have the space to avoid overcrowded in a sighting. For example, and leopards and lions, that mostly people always crowd for. You see,
Okay, and I guess it's good to limit the numbers both for the wildlife, but even the general tourist experience. I'm sure people who are around, there's so many vehicles around, you can't take a photo, you can't enjoy the sighting.
Yes, sometimes can be dangerous, because especially elephants, they don't like noise, because some people will never know their behavior, start making noise or doing unnecessary movements in the vehicle, then animals start to notice that, so it becomes a distraction to them, or they are feeling like they are being confronted in their comfort zone, you see.
Yeah.
Like animals like buffaloes, So imagine seeing more than 5 vehicles coming that way. So it's a very dangerous situation.
I believe it goes with just professionalism. Because when you go to places where you have guides that really have what they do at heart, nobody would be chasing after a lion like we see happening in Kenya. It's sad.
If I may just put some icing on what actually Letilia has said, it's sometimes having so many actually vehicles onto just like one sighting might not be the problem, but the question marks comes: how many minutes are you going to spend on that one sighting when you are 20 vehicles is actually the key.
People want to spend
You
hours.
see, that's the problem. If I have seen a lion seated, and we are 20 vehicles, why would I actually spend more than 30 minutes on that lion?
I mean,
Because it needs space at the end of the day.
Yeah,
So
that's-
we are so many. So professionalism, as Bentik has said, should actually come into play. I think I was actually impressed. I just got a chance. I said, let me go to Kenya on a round trip with some of the guides I use.
I thought with your...
So I just wanted to experience this firsthand. So we tried to search for, the leopards. So one leopard was actually in a thicket. I was so angry with the Maasai. I mean, these guys want to even reach the tail of the animal.
Yeah.
So my
Yeah.
guide said, you know what? It's okay. This is a wild. We shall see more. And he said, okay, let's hop on to what? Hope. So the following day, it's just a story, literally. I will make it quick. So the following day, we find a leopard. We were only 2 vehicles. And the same leopard because the thicket was actually next to that tree where we found the leopard the following day. We found the leopard in the tree, seated. We only had just 10 minutes with that animal, and the rest of the cars had already arrived. So he said, you know what, 10 minutes are enough for the animal, let's go. And I personally, as a filmmaker, I wanted more time. Even if I spend a whole hour, I don't mind. But as a professional guide, he said, this is enough, let's go find something else. I actually respected that.
And I think it also goes like what I just started with. It goes back to professionalism because a trip is made by mainly how you brief your clients, right? And these clients, in as much as they have expectations, once you brief them and tell them, hey guys, look here, we're going into a national park, we're going to see animals, you see them in this way, we don't shout, we don't do this, they will respect it. But because we have that also poor background, we're looking so much for a tip from this client. So you think...
That's the main
Just
problem.
Impression.
Yeah, you're thinking, I have
that's
to
the main
impress.
problem.
I want to
Trying to
go
impress
and
the
drive
client.
close to the lion just so a client can take a picture. Most of the clients are using phones. So, of course, if I am about 100 meters away, he's not going to get a good picture. So I have to get close to the lion, and then he takes a picture, then he can give me tips after.
Yeah. Letile, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was saying you just said that to impress the tourists to get more tip, because the more you stay, they get more satisfied, they do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And it goes back to us guides. Just like you have to tell them before they get drive, you are going to do this and this, and then you go
the
back.
briefing.
The briefing. Rather than staying more than like he's saying, some people they just want go to stay into the tail of a lion so that people can get get close.
There was actually a client that got out his hand and touched the lion. Remember that clip? It went viral.
It happens, and even in Botswana it happens, especially when you have international tourists, because those ones they tip, you see. But one thing I like about the local tourists, especially about us Botswana, they will kill you if they didn't see a lion in a game drive. But when they see it, they don't want you to stop. They just want to see it. Yeah, that's the lion. Then we can continue with the drive, not stopping there. Yeah. They're afraid of lions.
Yes. So Letile, if I may bring you to Uganda and Rwanda, so we have actually been able to conserve and manage the primates' destinations. This is the same way.
So chimpanzees and
you understand gorillas. The chimpanzees and the gorillas. we only give the clients only 1 hour. You understand? So your entire life you've been saving a lot of money to come and see
it's
the
only
gorillas.
8 people.
And you only go 8 people, and you only spend 1 hour with the gorillas. So just imagine the carrying capacity these animals are going to have if we would give them like a whole day.
There is a lot of
So that's why when it comes to like gorilla tracking and then we are doing game drives, the experience is different.
Yeah, even that behavior changes because like wild animals, the more they spend more time with humans, the more they want to spend more time with humans, because when they spend more time with women, there's a free food. That's why we don't allow people to feed wild animals when they're doing game drives or to carry fruits, because it can also be dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Imagine because after giving because I'll give you example like elephants. Elephants are very, very sociable animals, and they don't forget. They have feelings. They get attached. So you imagine humans come for more than 4 hours interacting with them. They will never want to go back into the bush or to graze for themselves, because we always give them the sweet food all they want.
Yeah.
You see?
Let me just cut this discussion short, because I know it's going on. And I need to bring in Kojo and Aisha in a bit. But one thing that really stands out from this whole discussion we've had about mass tourism is maybe a lesson for the Ugandan tourism players who continue to. I guess there's this discussion here that we want more tourists, we want to attract more tourists to the country. But I think at the back of our minds, as we attract these numbers, let's keep in mind the need to ensure that we don't reach that point where you have thousands of vehicles around just one side.
I don't dream of that. I don't.
And actually,
we don't want that.
Jonathan, among the reasons why Uganda stands out to be a unique destination, I read something, I think on Code Nurse Traveler, that Uganda's advantage is that you will actually be alone sightseeing like any cat.
Yeah.
Compared to any other destination.
Talk of those sightings in Kidepo, it's just you.
It's just you and, we've really talked about mass tourism, and Jonathan, I felt like I need to talk about also the lower side. The other side of
podcast,
it. Right? No, it doesn't.
I'll give Bentik.
Just give me like a few small minutes.
Sure, cool.
You see, there is the beauty, and this is, I think, the only reason why I may side with mass tourism. Because when you look at the lower one on the other side, it's few people are benefiting from it. Yes, in as much as the low impact tourism has those, you see, it's just maybe say 2 lodges that are bringing, the clients, and they're all benefiting from that. But if it on the mass side, it brings in a lot more. It's a huge value chain. There's a huge value chain. The other side, this is just like 2 companies. On the other side, there are more. But in the long run, I think the low impact one is.
It's more sustainable.
It's more sustainable. Yeah. On a conservation perspective, the low impact works better.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. I hadn't seen that part as well. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Let me bring in Kojo and Aisha, who we've not heard from in a bit, and this will be my final question. After which we'll have a general question for everyone to respond to.
I think Kojo has been lucky to go to Thailand. Maybe.
Yeah. Kojo and Aisha, we've had quite a number of conferences this year. I guess that's one of the biggest stories we've had in the tourism space. The fact that the meetings, incentives, conferences and events sector is also slowly working towards recovery. There have been several, if I could just single out several conservation and tourism related conferences. One being the recent climate conference, that's a COP27 in Egypt. There is the Kunming Montreal conference that had some very nice deliberations and decisions made with 2030 projections. This year we had the CITES conference. We had the first Actually, Kigali, Rwanda hosted the first IUCN conference on African protected areas. And then I know Kojo, as someone that works with the World Tourism Organization, you guys also had the Global Tourism Summit just recently in November. Now, with all these events, I'm one person who feels like when people meet a lot and not much is done, I get very frustrated. I don't know if it's just me. Kojo, I'd like to know, maybe Aisha as well, what's your feeling about all these conferences? Do we need, as we look into the new year, do we need more of these physical conferences, or do we need more action to be taken, especially when it comes to things to do with like the climate?
Okay, Joe. I mean, I understand your frustration, and again, yes, that sometimes when you have the conference and then the takeouts or the key points that are supposed to be implemented are not done, then it's quite frustrating. But I'm always a pro conference and all of it, because look, the economic value of conferences and mines is massive. Is billions. So if you bring a conference into town, depending on the capacity and all of that, it's a chain. Even the people just working on stage, that you have over 200 people working just on stage and on a particular conference. So it's income. It's a job. Is a employer of many for young people, especially, and you also sustain livelihoods. So it's not just having the conference. So you realize that when the conference comes to town, you have a lot of things that is going to happen, and these are something that is good for the economy. Second of all, people meeting itself. I guess the frustration is the fact that what has been done from the last event now.
Yeah.
So this is how I see it. So just putting it out that this conference is happening and creating the platform and medium for people to engage, to understand the conference is going to happen and put up in the media, is one form of accountability. Okay, so what it means is that it's been said out there, this conference happened and these things were said and they were recorded. So we can always tag them and pin them to it and say what has been done, what are the key takeouts, what was done in the last event. So going forward, I believe that we need more conferencing on other events. Look, it can be landmark event, it can be like the legacy event, as we all know, like the World Cup, like major events that how happened and changed lives of people. We need to be able to start, because and all good things start from Jojo. All right, we have to be able to engage. So once you engage, you find solution. The frustration then comes in when it becomes stale and it's not being pushed forward. But again, in my saving grace from that is the fact that sometimes there are some wins that maybe is not gigantic enough for us to be able to celebrate. But in its own way, it's a major step if you consider the challenges around specific issues. So you recall that with this visa thing and liberalization of African skies, it's taken long years before we were born. All right, but sometimes you look at SATEM and AFTCA and all of that happening. It's not overnight, but I believe that this will form part of what we will see at the bigger picture. Okay. So I'm a pro-conference. What we have to do well is to be able to take stock at each and every other conference of what has been done. What is the white paper? Have we implemented it to a point so that at every given time we know where we are at now? You know, so I'll go for conference because is a key income generator for jobs, economic value. It brings people together. As well, a lot of decisions are taken that tends to shape the lives of our people, one way or the other. So I would see more conferencing, but we have to be able to be accountable and to be able to state what has, because sometimes also it's about communicating what has been done.
Yeah.
That's a challenge, because sometimes there are things that have been done, but it's not being communicated well for people to understand that, okay, we met last year in Nigeria or Uganda. We're supposed to do 10 things, but we've done 3 things or 4 things, and these are things in progress.
Yeah.
And itself is a way to say that, yes, we can. And like I'm saying, sometimes it's deliberate to meet, not because you want to travel, but once you meet and it's part of an industry and a place that we know. Because like CITES and other major conservation events, sometimes they hold it in iconic places itself because of its relevance. So I'm all for it, but it'll be good for us to improve on the action point that has been implemented, and we all look forward to a great 2023.
Yeah, it's good to hear. And I'm actually losing a lot of stress just listening to you. I'm looking at the fact that there might be some small steps that are taken that contribute to a bigger picture. But I guess all these organizations could use a bit more on communication support just to air out more of these stories regarding things.
And educate people also. Educate, inform, give product knowledge of the thing, because all the things stem from people talking, even in the media. Yeah. When someone is speaking of a specific sector that they have little information on or about, the way they speak passionately maybe is not out. They don't want to be vicious, but because of lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding. Yeah. So if you are in a space organization and you have the opportunity, what you do first to be able to make sure that you have a grasp of what you're doing is to be able to use the power to educate them on all the importance and why we need that specific event or conference.
Interesting. Now let's also hear from Aisha as well.
Thank you, Jonathan. I really think these different meetings, these different conferences, these different summits are very key to spur partnerships. Because these different conferences open you up to these people you have just been maybe reading about, and here they are. In physical interaction, so you're able to discuss an agenda which can benefit you both. Yeah. So I'm very actually excited to see that the next WTTC summit is gonna be just right at our neighbor's place. So it's a great opportunity for us, to learn. Yeah. To learn from probably the different actors all over the world to see what are they doing better, that we can actually pick a leaf. Most especially on the issue of data. I think as Uganda, as a country, we've had issues with reliable data, which is actually one you look at to consider to make actually very meaningful discussion. So if TTC is coming down on ground, I think it's a good one for us to take. That is if anyway we take advantage of it, because there is it happening and we just, So, but it's a good one. And to me, I would think any summit, any conference, any meeting is a good one for us. These days, most of the things are online. You can, I remember in the previous podcast, you actually aired out, it showed us how this, that previous one was more of online. Yeah. But how many people in our population, truthfully, can benefit from, can take advantage of such, network through online? They're going to say, for example, they do not even have the data, reliable data, to enable them access some of those things. So, yes, it's something we are adopting, but it may take some time. Not everyone can really grab it firsthand. So the physical ones, COVID has reduced their measures. We have vaccines, boosters. So I think the physical ones are better, even economic impact. Once you have a mass of people somewhere, meaning you're impacting the people there, the food, the restaurants, the hotels. So, yeah, I would advocate for physical ones.
Okay. Do you share a thought that the deliberations that come out of those conferences should be acted on? I feel like we do a lot of meeting and very little action, especially on issues to do with climate change, the climate crisis especially. When I see these global leaders meet in Egypt for COP27 and they make all these promises and come back the following year and do the same thing, I get frustrated. That's where I was coming from with this thing of Do we really need more of these conferences, or do we need more action?
Of course, we need more action. That is undebatable. For goodness sake, we need more action. When you look at what Biden, I've been following some of those meetings, and I think the key outline, as they pointed out, was Africa needs more funding. Well, to some extent, but I think more of taking measurement could be more of an ideal before just getting these dollars and bashing them into Africa. For God's sake, with the corruption levels in Africa, they're going to eat up that money, minus even doing something.
Yeah.
But once there is accountability, for this year, we were in Egypt for COP27. By the way, just for your information, as the national focal point, I'll be attending on behalf of the youth in most of those, the COPs and then the different environment and water conferences. So if granted an opportunity, for example, I am able to present some of those, and then also the measurement bit. How far are we? If we said A, B, C, D, are we able to give, are we accountable enough for some of these things we put up, and how far? If we failed, what happened, and how can we be able to revert and then stay on course? So it's action more than just the talk.
Fantastic thoughts. Now, as I did mention, I have one final question for all of us, all the guests of the podcast. And this is a question around Africans telling African stories, or African stories being told by Africans. Throughout this year, I've read several pieces, I've seen several video content, photo content that is being made by Africans, telling the African story. Just last week, I was reading an article in the CNN, quite an interesting article by is a conservationist from Kenya. She's called Dr. Paula Kahumbo. I don't know if you guys know her. She did quite an interesting article on why we need more African creatives, more African film directors, more Africans in this wildlife and natural history space, telling our stories the way in which Africans want them to be told. And I know during the year, AWF, that's African Wildlife Foundation, held a training for journalists in Kenya around just interesting them in telling African stories. We seem to be asking for more African film crews, but also just generally, we want Africans to come out and be inspired to tell their stories. So let me get all your thoughts on what you feel about this move towards more African-centered content creation. I don't know who wants to take it first.
Brian will take this one first.
Okay, let's go with Brian.
You caught me off guard. I think, as an African, of course, I feel my story should be told my way, because it's me. It's the authenticity is within me. So when I'm telling a story, for example, let's say back in the days when I was growing up and I had a story of, let me say something happened. There is a way I am telling this story compared to someone who has actually not been there. And if I tell a story to Jonathan, he's not going to give it to you the way I gave it to him. So there is going to lack information somehow, somewhere, that might interest the other person who is actually listening or watching it. So I love creating films for wildlife conservation, but there is uniqueness about, authenticity of anything that you film or whatever you write, whatever you record. So in this way, I feel what actually Paul Kahumba wrote was actually interesting in the CNN news piece which Jonathan shared with us. But to my honest perspective, there are so many people who are actually coming up, creating this kind of content that has actually not been in any space. So, and it's actually going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
It's
good to hear. Do you want to come on?
Sorry. Telling the African story by the African is literally and I'm not trying to be mean here, is literally naming Lake Victoria and Alubari. You get? It's literally giving everything back, because the Africans have a bigger attachment to these things. In Africa, if you ever want to know if an animal existed in a place, you just ask the local name of the animal. For example, in Acholi, they don't have a name for gorillas. They don't, because the gorilla has never existed in Acholi. So if you want to know these things and how these names come about and stuff, and you don't just wake up and just name what you feel. I don't know.
Let me tell you something, Jonathan, a quick one. I remember we were in a conference, I think. Then someone said, no, I think the gorillas, we also need to give them Eastern names, like Eastern Uganda names. You say, hey, we are naming these animals based on where they are.
Yeah. All right. Let me hear from Aisha. Then we'll hear from the big man who is the expert in telling the African story, Kojo. And then finally, we'll also get Letile to wrap this discussion around Africans telling African stories.
Yes, to me, I think a story is being told by the person who owns it. I think it comes out better that way. I'll just give a scenario or just a reference with some of the words and what we were feeling about Meghan and Harry. But they came out and gave us their story. I mean, most people are just in speculation. It also goes back to our us back home. I mean, we as Africans, everyone yes, we are grouping Africans, but also the individual, countries or regions. I think we tell our stories better because we've experienced them. We know the genesis. We know why, why everything is like the way it is, than just more of just putting it up in the news, picked up by bloggers wherever around the world to give their view. They do not, I think something is more appreciated if someone who is the originator of the thing, says it.
Those are interesting thoughts, Aisha. Let's also hear from Kojo.
Okay, I mean, for me, I think that if you look at our history as a company at Voyage Afrique, it was one of the key things that moved us into starting that venture, and wanted to be able to, because there's a lot of stories and a lot of good stories and inspirational stories on the continent of people doing amazing things but don't get to be known, or is not told in a way that can influence and inspire people. So we believe that in spite of the challenges that we have, we had a role to be able to communicate in a way for people to understand and know what is happening. So it's a good thing to have a lot of our people telling our own stories in a way that showcases its potential and the things happen. We don't say don't talk about the challenges, of course, don't. But one thing we also have to take cognizance of is that we live in a very global world now. So you have an African who is also doing things with different markets, and there's information overflow, as you know, and there's access now. So, and because now there's a new thing that they call clickbait or chasing the numbers on social media, etc., you would tend to sometimes, yes, Africans are telling the stories, but sometimes a bit over negative stories. And there's always a challenge of which things should be, I'm not saying things should be censored, but if you speak an African, he's an African, and he or she is supposed to understand and know some of the history around those things. Sometimes we don't have the patience enough to wait to establish those facts. So then people have to go live or go whatever and say things. And if you go and you put out misinformation, it's difficult for you to clarify things. So it's good to have a lot of Africans, African content creators, and I believe that on the continent we're not giving them their due. All right, number of the government agencies, number of the bodies here always will hire expatriate, and if you go there and submit your proposal, I can tell you that you will struggle to get the business. It's changing though. So what we have to do as a content creator in Africa is also to be able to build our own capacities or create the enabling environment for institutions to support us to be able to build our capacities and ensure that yes, Africans are there to tell our own stories, but we shouldn't be overly negative and overtly putting things because of internet craze or clickbait or something. We tend to look at the other side. So we should be deliberate, we should be intentional, because we're still a very young continent, and the continent is because what you're putting on the they say the internet never forgets, all right?
Yeah.
So we should be careful what we say and what we write. And yes, we have our problems and challenges, same as all other continents, have. But we should be able to know which story that we are seeing and which angle, because editorial space, you can be caught between stating the fact and putting it in a way that seemed to give a bit of a twist to things. So what I would say is that we should be deliberate and we should be professional about how we talk about our things.
Fantastic. And I don't know if there's anyone that could put it better than you did there, Kojo. Letile, do you want to jump onto this conversation?
Yes, I would love that. We have to tell our own stories as Africans, because we don't script them, you don't write them, you just tell from our heart, from our head. Because it's something that we it's something that we know that, and we'll continue to know about it. So waiting for someone coming from someone else to tell the story, because some they'll just add their own opinion. Like, I'll give you an example. I love watching animal documentaries, wildlife documentaries, especially for national parks. And if they start saying that humans in Africa, they should be living here because it's only for animals, I just switch it off, move to the next one. You see? Yeah. Because they don't know how we coexist with wildlife. Before guns, we were living with animals nicely, and there were too many compared to now, where we have more. Where we have more endangered species. You see, because we need someone who can tell the story from the heart, not from their own opinion on how they feel.
Yeah.
You see, like elephants in Botswana or in Africa, some they have different opinions about elephants. I once in Makadeka depends with the Khoisan, the people, the San people. They shared their story about how they live with elephants. Those guys they live by hunting, but when they see elephant, they know it's very, very dangerous. They don't give any trouble. They just leave immediately. Yeah. So that there's no conflict between the San and the elephant. They know how dangerous it is. And because of the tools they use to hunt, it's not enough to kill an elephant. Yeah. But they just tell the story now. When we see elephants, we do this to give other space. We never heard a story that an elephant has killed a San person or a Khoisan people, because they know how to live with them. Yeah. But some will come and tell us people they should move from national parks and stay there. They're polluting the area, this and that. Yeah. So that's not how it should be. We should be us telling our own stories.
Fantastic. And it's a big point when you said we tell our stories based on what we actually know them to be. It's not scripted. And I believe that's a great point to end today's podcast on.
Quick one before you end, actually, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I think we should be lucky, guys. We should be lucky in our generation that we have at least lived to see how we can tell our stories. And I think technology has improved us in telling our own stories through different ways. But I feel the stories that we all find, whether on social medias, even in news, wherever it can be, it's because of technology that has advanced the way we see things, the way they are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're fortunate that it's free of charge that we can now, the bit of creating the content is very expensive, but we have the free platform to reach out to the world. All right, this podcast has to end at some point. It's been long, but I would like to thank all the five of you for joining the podcast. But maybe before you leave, let me just get your parting thoughts. And as you do, I'd like to know, looking into the new year, what destinations are topping your bucket list? So maybe we'll go with online guests first, and then we'll have the two gentlemen in the sitting here in the room with me to wrap it up. So let's have parting shots from Aisha first, ladies first, and then we'll hear from Kojo, and then we'll also get parting shots from Letile. After that, we'll have the two gentlemen here.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. Well, Uganda is beautiful. I have moved the world. America is powerful, but I've not seen the food, the good weather, all around the clock, like Uganda. So there can never be enough of me, of Uganda.
That's good to hear. I hope you will not get in trouble when you say that from Biden land.
I am here to pick examples to bring back home. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thanks for joining us, Aisha.
Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you for this. I think people should look out for some of these things to listen in. It's very good information, very well researched, very good guests we have all over. Yeah, keep it up, brother.
Okay, thanks, Aisha. Let's hear from Kojo.
Okay, Jonathan, no, thank you so much. And I think I'd like to congratulate yourself for starting this podcast as well. You know, I'm also a podcaster, and it's very good because it allows us to be able to inform our base and our people to understand the issues around tourism and its different segments. So it's very good, especially for wildlife, for birding, and for photography, you know, etc. Because we seem not to be put on the spot in all these events. So starting this is a good thing. Yeah. 2023, like I said earlier, it's going to be a good year. Difficult year for the economies of the world, as we've seen inflation all over. But again, it's a year that I think tourism will be back to pre-pandemic levels in terms of some countries have even surpassed that. But generally, averagely, we are looking to be back in full swing. And that means that more opportunities for everyone in the space. Again, the challenge is that now things have changed. So your regular traveler and tourists, the needs of those travelers will not be the same. So you have to be very smart to be able to address these ones to be competitive. Finally, on my bucket list, what can I say? I hope to travel the continent over again, you know, so I'll come on that. Yeah. I cannot put any specific country, but yeah, I'm looking forward to enjoying the food, the amazing culture, the music, the dance, the people. You know, these are the treasures of our continent, and then we're hoping that for content creators ourselves, we would invest in ourselves and also be available and treat this as business as opposed to just a hobby or social media thing. So yeah, that's what I was saying. Thank you all of you out there in the studio and those joining us online, and you have a wonderful 2023.
Thanks, Kojo. Happy New Year to you too. Beautiful, beautiful. And let's finally, for our online guests, let's hear from the man in Botswana, Letile.
I would say thank you for the podcast. This is my first time doing it. I hope I'll get more invites to do it.
Yeah.
I would love to visit Rwanda for Akigira National Park. I really like that introduction of the lions back into the national park. It was really nice. Yeah. And in Uganda, I think Chobe Game Lodge. I think there's another Chobe Game Lodge in Uganda.
Yeah, we do have Chobe Safari Lodge here.
It's actually a lodge in the Murchison Falls National Park.
Yeah, because we have Chobe Safari Lodge in Botswana. There's another Chobe Safari Lodge in Uganda. The one was booked by Kanye West.
Yes.
And paid for, and the King Kardashian paid the whole guest who paid for that trip so that he can be alone with his family. And that was nice.
Yeah, that was a big story for us.
Yeah. It's one of the lodges I want to visit there.
Okay, well, you're most welcome. And when you come, you definitely have brothers here that will take very good care of you.
Yeah, you can give me free accommodation. I'll try to find... Huh?
No problem.
No free...
Just let us know when the dates, and we'll see how we can chip you in.
Yeah.
And we also plan to come down to Southern Africa, Zambia, Botswana.
Even me, I'm also planning, like on the 30th, I'm planning to do Vic Falls. I have plans from Australia. They want to do the Vic Falls, so I want to go and see the Vic Falls for the first time.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining the podcast. And then let's hear from the gentleman in the room. Whoever wants to go first.
Let me go first because I need to ask for a job on this. So I'll let my elder come last. Jonathan, it's been really a great honor having us be called here to share our minds on these topics that we have at heart. I've already told guys, you can be an influencer of a particular thing, you can never be an influencer of anything. And if it was any person to be chosen to talk about tourism, then I believe you chose the right people. These are people who live and earn from tourism and definitely have it at heart. Now, coming into 2023, 2021, 2022 have been still not the best of years we can always talk about. 2022 maybe gave us some light, but I think if everything stays as is right now, you can never be so sure. These past 2 years have shown me that anything can change in a minute.
You can have another pandemic.
Exactly. So if everything stays as it is right now, I think 2023 is promising. We pray and hope everything goes as planned and life, health is on our side. So we should be able to go back on our foot. I don't know, maybe, and that's why I say let my brother come in last, because I need to tap how on earth someone has been doing so good in this time when everybody has been crying. Someone has been doing so good. So I think, thank you very much for hosting us. I just want to listen to this man here.
We have different witch doctors.
I need to use the same one.
Nothing goes easy, my friend. All right, man.
Well, anyway, Jonathan, thank you for having us in your studio today.
Yes.
And it's been actually thrilling talking to like-minded people in this place. I think I've worked with Jonathan in different spaces and on different levels, but you're doing a very good job.
Thanks, man.
Putting yourself up front. It's passion, man. Keep doing it.
It's lots of work, eh?
Trust you guys who are not here, you should see this place. It's all wired up. But Jonathan is actually doing a good job for Destination Uganda, of course, and as well the entire continent. It's good to see someone passionate do such kind of work. And sometimes we do things expecting something in return, but this is the work of a passionate person. And we really appreciate. The world might not show you now, but
eventually,
if you can send us a link for maybe a payment link, maybe to support you.
Yes.
We're happy to do it. We don't just want to stop on thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But 2020, 2021, 2022, we are entering 2023. Bentik. The year has not been easy. Trust me.
Hell no.
But as a development manager for Go Explore Safaris, we've really been trying to put together things to make sure we are on top there and on top of the game as well. And this year, actually, I think sealed the half of a decade we've been in business.
Wow.
Oh, congratulations.
And winning 2 awards for the organization and Uganda at large.
In the World Travel Awards.
In the World Travel Awards. And I think has put us in a position where we want to be, I think. And of course, we wouldn't have done it without those incredible guests that have journeyed with us all the way ever since we've been in existence. But we thank each and everyone, of course, and we continue to create journeys beyond the map always. And thank you, Jonathan, for having me, and I hope I didn't disappoint as well.
Thanks, guys, for allowing to come on. For even the guys miles and miles away across the Atlantic, across the Kalahari, up north in Ghana, West Africa. Thank you all for joining the podcast.
You're
and
welcome.
It's been a fire. You're welcome. Thanks. And it's been a fire pod. It's one of those podcasts which you feel it's one people will enjoy. I call it a fire pod. So yes, guys, that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this week's discussion as much as I did. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button, as we always say. Share the link in your circles. And let's get this conversation beyond this platform. And Brian did talk about something to do with sending some money. Yeah? I guess we can set up a Patreon just to, I guess the guys that appreciate the work that goes behind putting together such dope content. All right, now for those that don't know, the podcast is available on all major streaming platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Radio Republic, Pocket Casts. And I'd like to once again say a very big thank you to all my guests, but I really thank them for setting aside time to come and share their insights, their experience with my listeners. As always, if you have any contributions or if you have any questions, be sure to leave a comment below the podcast or send me a direct email on contact@jonathanbenaia.com or ahabenathan@pm.me. Both emails will be linked in the podcast description. And until next time, let's travel, let's enjoy our happy travels, and let's make 2023 a great year for our industry. All right, I will see you in the next one.